Welcome everyone, thanks for joining us. We heard yesterday about the SVOD, AVOD market being 600 by 2023, 600 million, AVOD maybe 50 million SVOD. Obviously, there's a mix as well. Let's start with this question of this session, the AVOD versus SVOD, your opinion.
So I don't think there is an AVOD versus SVOD. Why should there be an AVOD versus SVOD? These are monetization methodologies, and in early stage markets, I would imagine people will experiment with both. My guess is larger platforms like Sony Live would probably work across both forms of monetization. We see ourselves being a premium service, which basically means that there will be a certain amount of content that will be available for consumers free, which is monetized through advertising. And there would be some content which would be paid, which is premium content, something that consumers would want to pay for. And therefore, I would imagine we'll span across both ends. Both the markets are large enough. Internationally, we've seen both being significantly large. The AVOD market has been evangelized worldwide by YouTube and the likes of YouTube, and that's a large segment. And on the other side, SVOD is a fairly large segment, and a lot of players have been in the SVOD space. So I don't see there is a good or bad in it. I would imagine that these are both forms of monetization, and depending on your strategy, you would go out and do both or parts of both. Our strategy is that we will be a premium business. We will have some part of our content on advertising, and the others will be free.
So I'll come back to how you decide what goes where. But I'd like to talk to Ali. Tell us about Eros obviously believes in the SVOD model. How is that playing out for you?
So I think just kind of touching on what Uday said, right? I think we need to think about the customer first, because always from a trade perspective, we think about whether it's advertising driven, subscription driven, it could be other models, right? But from a customer standpoint, when you look at it, I think there's different kinds of content that fit better into different business models, right? Now jumping in from an Eros perspective, I think the natural kind of transition or progression for us was looking at the fact that it was a studio production unit that had IP rights to over 11,000 films. Films have been a consistent part of programming across theatrical, across television. Majority chunk of the viewership on television also comes from the movie kind of watching audiences. Also then a natural progression that because this is the only kind of at-scale content that's developed for audiences that vary from 10, 12 to 60 years old, or even older, there is a significant amount of demand for that from a premium perspective on a on-demand platform. So I think the consumers kind of look at it differently. What we were trying to do is position the product at the top of the funnel from how we're able to kind of build the audience base.
Can you make enough money on an SVOD on a couple of dollars a month to fund what you need to do to drive that content engine?
I think that question is also valid for everyone, right? No, so I think it's not about what the business has in store today, right? I think can you make enough money is a question of saying that when do you look to make enough money? I think that's the right question to ask, right? We started doing actual work on online video in 2010, 2011. When the user base was sitting thereabouts in the 40, 50 million kind of user range, right? And we said that, no one would have imagined, you'd be crossing like 250 million kind of mark thereabouts over a period of even like 6, 7 years or 7, 8 years, right? So I think the advantage that we're sitting with today is the fact is that all forms of monetization will catch up over a period of time. There is a natural progression that's happening in terms of the consumer behavior that's drastically changing. Right? I was listening to Karan in the previous session, and one of the questions asked was the fact is that all kinds of audiences between single TV, multiple TV, who's watching what when. I think that behavior pattern is drastically going to change to slightly more of an on-demand behavior pattern. And the minute that changes from a critical mass standpoint, you see the business model coming up.
So I think taking up from there, the question whether for monetization would be the same, whether it is advertising or whether it is subscription. It's how many people are ready to pay and how much are they ready to pay. So whether it is subscription or it is advertising, how many advertisers are ready to participate on advertising online on the digital side, and how much are they ready to pay and how much money are they ready to allocate. So fundamentally that's the challenge for us, for whether it's SVOD or AVOD. The good part is that there is a real movement of consumers. As consumers move, monetization with a lag will move. It's only a matter of time. It's only a way of establishing some sort of a trust in the platform, some sort of a pipeline of content, some sort of a dependable form of payment, a non-friction form of payment where the friction that you have when you pay is low. If you're able to solve those pieces, I think there is a fair amount of consumer traction now. There is a fair amount of scale in the industry to be able to pay for a lot of stuff that we're doing. None of us are going to make money in the short run, but we all realize that this business is going to be a fairly large business. This is going to be growing at a very fast pace. So today, if there are 250 odd million users consuming content online, we believe that this number would reach 500 to 600 million in the next 3 to 4 years. So we are basically going to double the consumer base. If you are doubling the consumer base, my guess is the business grows more than just the consumer base. Therefore, what will happen in this? So, and I take it from the AVOD point of view, we are seeing many more advertisers moving onto advertising on digital video. My guess is maybe the top 200 to 250 advertisers in India today have allocated a decent part of their business or decent part of their advertising money on digital video, and that is the real test. So if top 200 advertisers in the country have started allocating money to digital video, and every single plan today that goes out from those advertisers has OTT as part of it, I think we've crossed the first barrier. It's the next of how many more and how much money would they put in.
But I think that's my challenge actually, because the thing is that the growth of the users hasn't seen the advertiser growth in the same rate in the last 5 years, right? I think advertising on video is not even close to about a $600–700 million business as far as India is concerned today, right? And I think that's been the challenge because search and social still forms a large part of the overall kind of digital marketing budget today. And I think a lot of the work that's being done on originals by a lot of the stakeholders, the buoyancy of the ecosystem and the consumers' kind of wide range of choices is actually going to make sure that there is a transition even on the advertising side. Whilst the difference, the actual question is on the subscription side, the unit economics make a lot more sense because the subscriber then actually is paying whatever that sum of money is for that subscription. Hence the kind of growth trajectory of the business and the consumer base goes kind of hand in hand. So for obvious reasons, there is a certain scale with one versus the other for today. But I think, I think the future looks very bright in terms of the balance of the business models.
What do you think the tipping point will be in the subscription space?
I think the tipping point is going to be when we're able to look at, there's 3–4 tipping points actually, there isn't one particular tipping point because there are, I look at this as society stigmas changing and hence the kind of larger ecosystem kind of starting the hockey stick of sorts, right? I think one of the larger tipping points is that with the kind of Gigafiber launch, you're going to see connected homes by the end of 2019. So I think that's one major tipping point for the rest of the economy. The second tipping point that's going to be interesting is the fact is that the quality of content that is produced in terms of it getting a certain critical mass. Because you have to understand that programming essentially was catered to women over the age group of 30–35, predominantly in the country, right? Over 100 hours of programming a week was just catered to them. Now suddenly you're seeing a lot more variety in terms of the kind of programming. So the younger audiences were drastically underserved for years together. So some kind of migrated to the Black Mirrors and the Game of Thrones of the world. There's a larger chunk that don't necessarily relate to that kind of programming. So I think the content, quality, stories, narratives are going to be another interesting kind of part this time. I think third is the kind of breakdown both in genre and languages. So I think once you start hitting like close to about, as Uday also mentioned, like when you start breaking the 300, 350, 400 kind of mark, you kind of hitting penetration of television of sorts. You're already hitting an over and above on a screen basis. You've already kind of passed that phase. Once you start doubling that, you start kind of mirroring a TV reach. Immediately that happens, you have the largest advertisers in the country questioning in terms of the possibility of television versus digital, because there's still a large spend there. And I think the last one, which is the most critical, is about being able to deliver quality time spent from an infrastructure. So not just the 5G, but the streaming infrastructure, the technology, how we do our caching, our hosting, the entire delivery aspect of it starts playing a more qualitative role than what it does today. So it's even the telco infrastructure not completely grappling with, because currently we're struggling with voice of the country.
So in terms of evolution, I think we will very quickly transition from today we are a mobile-centric business. Most of us are mobile-centric businesses. We are working with 4G, and we are working with the current ecosystem. Most of us are looking at television content and stuff like that. So that's a big part of the consumption. So I think we are at that phase. I would imagine in 3 to 4 years we will see this industry move significantly to the next phase. It's already visible right now that the television set itself, the smart TVs by itself, will become a large form of consumption. So my guess is the size of consumption or the time spent on mobile is very different from the time spent on a television set. So if the television sets today are available, smart TV, 32-inch smart TV is available for $15,000, that $200 becomes a very attractive second TV to come into the house. Now at $200, if you get a TV at home, it's a second TV, and you connect it to very strong fiber or a Wi-Fi or whatever is going to be available at that point in time. Your time spent just changes significantly. The choice of content changes significantly, because then you're not doing family viewing on that device and it gets fragmented. Each individual user can do their own stuff. So the payment systems will also change, because your involvement in what you're watching is that much more. Therefore, my guess is from an Avod-centric, mobile-based 4G economy, we will move to a fiber, smart TV, and an SVOD-based ecosystem going forward. So I think there is a natural transition that will happen. It doesn't mean Avod reduces in size. My guess is SVOD will grow much faster, and that size or the relative size of both these industries will probably shift.
So that's obviously a great case for SVOD, but right now you have the Avod SVOD freemium living side by side. How do you approach what to put where?
So that's a very tough question for all of us every day, and we sometimes get the right answer, we sometimes don't get the right answer. But that's what the learning is currently. We look at windowing our content, and I think what gets windowed on TV first then gets into an Avod basket. And when we do first windowing on TV, on digital, then we keep it on SVOD. So that's the rough formula that we follow right now. It's probably an art, not a science right now, but we will figure out going forward.
If I could ask you what your biggest learning has been in deciding on windowing, in deciding which platform to premiere, big titles, small titles, what to commission for digital for Avod, what would your biggest learning be?
So I think we started off about a couple of years back trying to create shows or web series with advertiser, which was sold to advertisers or had advertiser integrations in it. And I think that was our first learning that doesn't work. And we tried that because that wouldn't scale beyond a point, because the cycle of getting the stories out and getting to the advertiser and rolling that out took far too much time. So we thought that doesn't scale beyond a point. We can do a few of them, but that's more with a very detailed, it's more in the space of content marketing rather than in the space of content creation for the consumer. So I think that was our first learning. We moved out of that and we said, now when we create content for consumers, that would be for the digital native consumers, and therefore we would put that in a subscription basket, let the consumers look for it and get it. So I think we moved through that, and on the television side, we've seen that most of television content, because it's the second window after television, it's a catch-up thing. There is a time lag after television that it comes on digital, and therefore that we put as Avod. The advertisers also are sometimes common, sometimes not common, and therefore the consumer there is used to watching advertising, because on television also they watch advertising. So therefore it's that much easier for us to sell it to an advertiser. It's that much easier for us to get the consumers to watch it along with advertising.
What would your biggest learning be?
I think even with SVOD, right, we launched a very interesting IP recently called the Eros Now Quickie. So we kind of realized that that's a space which is short form content has always been seen as like Charlie with my finger or dogs on the skateboard kind of situation. The Quickie was a way to kind of give professionally produced content, high quality, high stories, which was kind of catering to a very different audience. So one of the things is you've got the recreational lean back viewers who kind of have time and sit a longer period of time to watch movies or long form episodic. We launched a couple of those also, big ones last year that did really well. But the other learning that came out was that there's a lot of kind of commute time viewership that happens. And they've got limited time during commute, and they're not really looking to kind of consume entertainment recreationally, which they can give a lot more time to. So Quickie becomes a very interesting format that's again very device friendly. It becomes something that's interesting from a commute perspective. So what we did is we kind of built upon the existing strategy of saying that fine, it's premium, top of the funnel, but we kind of cater to different consumer behavior habits to kind of take into their life cycle. So there are about 3 or 4 things along these lines we're working with to understand how does video fit in the customer's life cycle and journey, and those are the areas that we're trying to fill in, and us along with the 35 incumbents in the market are trying to fill in from a time spent point.
What's the journey been? I mean, Eros is obviously your history and your background and your what you're known for is bigger budget, theatrical, high quality films that have global audiences. The migration to a quickie, a 10-minute quickie, what's that journey been like for Eros, and what challenges have you had in just integrating that 10 or 15 or 7-minute mindset into the way you work?
I think whilst the company has been 40 years old and in the business for that long, and essentially the single largest vertically integrated studio, I think the founders and the promoters of the company are very agile and nimble and slightly millennial-like in their thinking. So I think it's not a matter of a large kind of a tectonic shift in terms of mindset. Right? We stayed true to who we were in terms of premium content. It's just that we decided that the stories are going to be narratives that we can deliver within 60 to 80 minutes or 6-10 episodes, rather than worry about take that through a 6-hour, 8-hour kind of CD or journal exercise. Right? The story needs to have that kind of depth, because on television, traditionally on GEC, what you've seen is the kind of 250 episodes going back to back, which really have 5 or 10 minutes of real content per episode. So it's a good kind of a snacky, high burst, in and out kind of situation. So to be honest, it was just understanding the data sciences behind consumer behavior, and then I guess pivoting to another strategy to attack a different set of the customer. I don't think it was a massive kind of a shift for the business or for the company to look at that differently. Because see, we've understood the fact is we're now a digital entertainment company. It's not so much of a studio model. Obviously, the studio model is also going through its own revolution. We're about looking at how do we cater to the next audiences of this country.
Your relationship with the creative community obviously changes as you make that migration. Talk to us about how easy it's been to go out and attract the kind of creators for the quickies that you need to maintain the Eros brand.
Right, so I think the one thing that's been constant with the Eros brand is the fact is that we've had great relationships with the highest caliber talent in the country. We've had great relationships with a lot of the directorial, technical talent also in the country, right? So we took a combination of that learning. There's a completely also a brand new team that kind of looks at the digital perspective. That's more millennial-like, and you met a few of them. And that come in with colleagues that have actually worked within television, that have worked within digital. So we've got a nice mix actually of people that have come from the film business, come from the television business, and come from the native digital business. So it's this amalgamation of the three different skill sets and the learnings that allows you to maintain consistency on quality, product, and story, and allows you to deliver a product that we can charge a customer money for. So I think it's the combination of the team that's also kind of helped build, evolve the brand. That's the transition that we've seen in the last 12 months.
I'll ask as a version of the question, what kind of change in mindset and relationship with the creative community has moving from Sony's traditional TV business into a digital AVOD, SVOD model?
So I don't think, I think that was the easy part. I think the real challenge or the real change comes more from a technology perspective. And I think this business is far more tech heavy than maybe the traditional Sony business, and which is where I think the real mindset change has helped, because the OTT business is far more a platform play. It's also a very large tech play, and I think that change of being able to run a platform, a consumer business, a direct-to-consumer business, and a technology backbone makes all the difference, and that has been a great achievement for Sony Pictures, and I think that's been a great learning journey for all of us. Today, for example, on the Sony Live app, we do about 3,000 live sporting events every year. So, you know, for doing it at that scale, with that many consumers, you know, early in the morning you're doing an NBA game, and during the day, right now, for example, you're running India-Australia cricket, and then late in the evening you're running football, European football, and this is almost running 300 days of the year. So it's a fairly large you know, platform that we run, and from a technology perspective, it's not only video on demand, it's also live events, it's live channels, and a fair amount of complexity in it. So within the sporting thing, you're running multiple languages, you're running multiple feeds. So right now we're running Australian Open and India-Australia cricket, both coming from that market. So and for Australian Open, you're running it across courts, and you're figuring out which court is being covered or not covered. So there is a fair amount of complexity in the technology part of it, and I think that's been the real change. The creative move from one screen to the other screen is, I think, that much easier. People have adopted very quickly. We've seen the creative people, you know, come up with stuff for the new screens that are in the market, and I think that's been a far easier shift. The real challenge has been on the technology side.
And switching the conversation slightly to the technology side, you obviously digital brings the kind of analytics and the kind of insights into specific user behavior. How much does this, and clearly it impacts SVOD and AVOD equally, how much data analytics do you use to inform your decision?
So I think, at least from an Eros perspective, we use it actively, not at the level we'd like to. I think we're in a state where we're kind of, I think there is passive data and active data. Passive data, first party, second party, third party data comes into the system, and there's a lot of kind of research and that's been done on it to then activate the kind of decision. So quickly being a decision that actually arrives from data rather than anything else, right? This is an example. But I think what we want to do is we're trying to take this on a little bit on steroids and take it a couple notches up, where a lot of this data dynamically feeds into the content decisions, a lot of our marketing decisions, and a lot of our user acquisition decisions and retention decisions, right? I think a lot of this has been done statically, so we're in the process of actually, hopefully within the next 6 months, making this entire process automated. So the respective teams and the various kinds of leads have access to this on a real-time basis, rather than having a research guy crunch up about a few hundred Excel sheets to be able to come up with what the data has to speak. And then the second layer of this is we're allowing a lot of this to feed into our recommendation algorithms or the kind of machine learning that we're looking to develop. That would be stage 2. So the dynamic data kind of helps on business intelligence and back to the product person.
There's a fear, if I can call it that. I think it will dissipate as time goes on. That creative decisions will stop being algorithm based and will stop being analytics based. Do you feel that fear?
I don't think so, right? Because I think that essentially the various heads of businesses and the founders of businesses are smart enough and they instinctively play on their gut. Also, it's not just that data only decides in isolation when decisions are made. I think the data enables a lot of the gut to either authenticate those decisions or maybe look at doing something differently. Please remember, data will also maybe suck you into trends which might you end up doing more of what you're already doing, and then suddenly it will put you into a hole rather than taking you out of the hole. That's also possible, right? So I think it's not a single isolated answer saying that data is the one that's going to drive the future. A lot of people say that and say that we need to base all decisions upon that. I think there is a consumer instinct gut when you're running a direct-to-consumer play in terms of what you believe is the next stage of growth or evolution.
Analytics.
So on the data and analytics side, I think that's the backbone of our business. So given that we are such a large advertising-driven business, that becomes the backbone of what we do. Also for the amount of content that we put on the platform, it's almost 80-20 hours content every day. There is a fair amount of analytics and data that we require to keep the fire burning. And we built a huge middle layer which basically looks and collects and analyzes that data real time. It feeds back into 3 systems, and I think that's the key piece for us which keeps us going. One piece is the advertising piece, which is when an advertiser comes in, he wants to target his ad at a particular user, at a particular behavior. So I think we're able to do that efficiently, and that's critical to our business. The second piece where this data helps us is in terms of our own customer interactions. You know, when customers are coming onto the platform, there's a certain amount of personalization that we can do in terms of what the consumer sees. And therefore, that's the content side of what the consumer sees. And then on the third end, we also, when we reach out to consumers, we are doing that far more intelligently and not spamming them with what's new and what's coming soon. So we really know, you know, there are that many Real Madrid fans, and therefore they are the ones who will come back for the next game. And therefore, when the message goes out to them, it only goes out to them, doesn't go to everybody. And with the amount of sports that we do and the amount of entertainment that we do, it's important to make sure that you know which customer falls into which basket, and therefore be able to target that consumer to bring him back. So acquisition, retention, and on monetization, all 3 engines really run from a central, what we call our data management platform.
And taking that on to the next conversation point, the analytics also drive discovery, drive recommendation. That's probably, there's a session this afternoon that will talk more about that. But discovery, especially on SVOD, where you actually targeting people one at a time. How do you deal with discovery first and recommendation engine?
Can I complicate that question further? We're also dealing with international markets, so it's not the same user in India, it's also the users in the US, it's the users in the UK. Vietnam features in the list of some of the countries that actually watches our programming. So I think it's a cyclic exercise, right? So we actually isolated at a geo level in terms of what's being consumed. We look at a lot of historical patterns in terms of what the viewership behavior is and various parameters within that. As I said, the evolution of where we are from a search and discovery perspective on the platform today, and hopefully what we would be 6 months down the line is going to be a whole different ballgame. Because we're kind of doing some interesting work. So we're amongst the few companies that actually does a lot of our development in-house. So a lot of them have outsourced to third parties. Also as a culture, that's where we want to pivot ourselves in terms of the nucleus of the company, because we're already good with content, a lot of marketing, blah, blah, blah. We want to ensure that we're actually focusing on the technology central core of the movement. And then we've identified areas that we want to invest in terms of as resources, as intellect, to be able to build the product out of the future. So we do it at consumer levels, content segment levels. We also have a lot of music videos and trailers, which give us a significant amount of increase in funnel size at large, because that's a quick in and out kind of a situation and a big draw when they do launch. So we use different filters to be able to queue up in terms of how we stack the recommendation model.
Does it work every time, or is this still a work in progress?
No, I don't think it ever finishes, right? Because the customer, I don't think there is an end, like there's a finishing tape or an end of the road to this particular journey, right? Because by the time you think you finish, the customer is evolved. By the time you finish, or you think you finish, you've got a new set of customers coming in. The tricky question over here is, I think, that, you know, and I don't have the answer for this one, is that you develop user journeys for cohorts. The question that you ask yourself is there a user journey for an individual? And if so, how do you develop popular content?
I think it's a question that you'll probably keep asking yourself year after year. But if Netflix is the benchmark and they have a recommendation challenge, with that kind of resource, how do you think about developing your own? I mean, if they've got, with all the money they have, if they've got a challenge.
So in the same principle, like Google had Orkut back in the day, right, which was the #1 social brand, and then came Facebook. I don't think Netflix necessarily is the holy grail of recommendation. I just don't believe that's the case. Maybe Netflix got it right for the audiences in the US. I'm pretty sure they haven't got it right for most of the audiences around the world. Because I don't think behavior patterns would be necessarily similar. So the tweaks that you make, that's why I'm saying that the real question it becomes is that how is it you're developing a recommendation engine, what are your key points to your algorithm, right? And I think there will be companies that will do a better job than Netflix has in different areas of the business. Because I don't think that there is kind of a gold standard for this one.
I would also imagine that there is no real formula out there to say, does everybody have we reached a point that this is the perfect recommendation engine, which is why it's a recommendation engine and not, you know, something that's pushed down your throat. It's finally a recommendation. So, and it's also based on machine learning. So the recommendation basically helps you discover content, and it's an ongoing process of saying, out of the thing that we think you might like to watch, which of these would you really want to watch? And then it keeps correcting itself. So recommendation engines would get better and better as they're used, and they're used more and more, which is the whole piece of machine learning. And I don't think today any of us can really sit down with Excel sheets and try and do recommendation engines. Recommendations are now far more sophisticated. And most of us understand our content a little better than the guy outside. So therefore, what's coming in, what the nuances of each content, what is the genre in which it falls, what kind of consumers would like it, and therefore we're trying to tweak the engine all the time. So there is an editorial aspect to it, and there is a machine aspect to it, and there is a learning aspect to it. And all this feeds back to say, does it get better and better? So today, for example, we are probably getting 20% of our consumption happening or discovery happening through our recommendation engines. And we're tracking it all the time. So we're saying, how much can we push this? Push it beyond 30-35%? I don't know. Can you push it to 50%? I don't know. Maybe Netflix is pushed it to 70-80% of their consumption is coming from non-editorial recommendations. But that's a journey we'll all have to go through. We're in this journey for about 4 to 5 years. I guess Netflix and the others have been in it longer. They obviously have far more learning in this roadmap, but it doesn't mean that we will not be able to catch up. I think that's core to our business. It's core to our understanding of our consumers and our content, and that probably will work best for us.
Actually, the two things to consider here is, one is, I think the AVOD customer is sometimes recognized, not recognized, because there's not necessarily credentials associated with it. Right? The SVOD becomes easier from a recommendations perspective because we know the user a lot better. That's just one answer. The second answer also, this is that the evolution of the mobile economy versus the large screen economy versus the evolution of the user and versus a more mature user behavior or time spent habit on online is also going to make you a lot more smart on what to serve the customer. So on the evolution journey of the video curve, we probably haven't started the hockey stick growth yet. We're kind of there sooner than later. I think once that maturity also becomes better from a consumer set, these engines actually become smarter and automatically improve your overall experience.
Themselves. And on that smarter note, I'll thank you both for joining me today, and thank you very much for joining us.